The following program is a production of WMFE, Orlando, Melbourne, Daytona Beach.
Now on This Week, your local news program from WMFE. Floridians are casting their ballots as the debate continues over proposed changes to the state constitution. This week, our Decision 2008 coverage explores Amendments 1 and 2, plus...
Pretty soon, cameras are going to be popping up all over downtown Orlando. Find out who's keeping an eye on you.
That and more this week on WMFE.
Support for This Week is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to WMFE from viewers like you. Thank you.
Reporting this week, Judith Smelser, Brittany Shane, and Steve Brown.
In our Decision 2008 coverage, Floridians began voting this week on 6 measures that would change the state constitution. One of the choices involves a stronger ban on gay marriage. The Amendment 2 ballot language reads in part that marriage is the legal union of only one man and one woman, and no other legal union that is treated as marriage or the substantial equivalent thereof shall be valid or recognized. Gay marriage is already banned by state law, so what's behind the new push and what other implications might come from a constitutional ban? To discuss these questions, we turn to our panel. Horatio Mihat of Orlando's Liberty Council is here with us. He is with the conservative group that supports Amendment 2, and Michael Kinney is with Florida Red and Blue, a coalition formed to help fight the amendment. Gentlemen, thanks for coming. Mr. Mihat.
Thank you for having us.
Mr. Mihat, gay marriage is already banned in Florida. It's banned by 4 state statutes. Why the constitutional amendment?
We need a constitutional amendment, Steve, in order to make sure that Floridians themselves get to define marriage in Florida and not an activist judge. Our opponents are busy working day and night to overturn those 4 statutes in Florida, not through the legislative process or through the voter referendum process, but through activist judges. We've seen it happen in Massachusetts, in California, most recently in Connecticut, that marriage has been radically redefined by activist judges. The same thing will happen in Florida unless we amend our state constitution to say the same thing that our law says, that marriage is and should remain between a man and a woman. And when we've done that, then no activist judge in our state will be able to say that the existing law contravenes our Constitution because they will be in agreement. So it is a vital step that is absolutely necessary to make sure that we don't end up like Massachusetts, California, and now Connecticut.
What about that, Mr. Kinney?
Well, you know, of course, we strongly disagree. I mean, first of all, there's 4 laws here that prohibit gay marriage. So regardless of what happens with this amendment on November 4th, on November 5th, gay marriage will still be against the law in the state of Florida.
Unless something like what happened in Connecticut happens in Florida.
Yeah, but it has to happen 4 times here. You know, it isn't the stroke of a pen. It isn't one law. They'd have to do it 4 different times. The likelihood of that is ridiculous. You know, we strongly believe that it should be up to the voters of the state. You know, we have a democracy. We elect legislators. It's their job to pass laws. We don't believe there should be a misuse of the Constitution.
Your group has really been hanging their hat on possible effects to domestic partnerships. Talk about that and any concerns you might have.
And you know, we have to look at what's happened in other states. You know, this amendment isn't about gay marriage. As I said, gay marriage is against the law on November 5th regardless. This amendment hurts senior citizens. It hurts victims of domestic violence. It's bad for our business community. It's bad for anyone in a domestic partner relationship. They're overwhelmingly heterosexual couples. It's bad for our K through 12 and university systems. If this amendment were to pass, senior citizens that can't get remarried because they would lose their pensions could be prohibited from seeing each other in the hospital and helping with emergency decisions. We saw in Ohio, when an amendment like this passed, a man beat a woman and was arrested, and his lawyer went into court and argued that since they weren't married, it couldn't be viewed as domestic violence. The judge agreed. He pled to lesser charges, as did 80 other beaters of women. It took 3.5 years to get to the state Supreme Court, and in between, the police throughout the state of Ohio were so confused they stopped enforcing restraining orders. How is that good government? Why would we not want to protect Floridians from domestic violence?
Mr. Mihat, voters in Michigan approved an almost identical amendment 4 years ago, and there have been some implications to domestic partnerships in the state of Michigan. And your group is really saying that that won't happen in Florida. How is that? How can you guarantee it won't happen here?
Absolutely, it will not happen in Florida. First of all, each constitutional amendment in the various states is not entirely the same, is somewhat different. In Florida, the way that our amendment is drafted, it is the most protective amendment of domestic partnerships and of other relationships. The bottom line is that even in those other states that have passed other amendments, not one person, gay or straight, has ever lost one benefit because of a marriage amendment. And so if that hasn't happened there, it certainly will not happen here. The voters can rest assured of that fact. Why? Because this is not a new argument. Our opponents have already made it to the Florida courts when they tried to yank this amendment off of the ballot. They went to the Florida Supreme Court and argued that this amendment is vague and that this amendment somehow invalidates domestic partnerships or other relationships. The Florida Supreme Court unanimously, 7-0 opinion, both conservative and liberal judges alike rejected that argument and said, excuse me, that the amendment concerns the singular subject of marriage. It is clear and unambiguous, and it does not invalidate domestic partnerships in Florida. So the senior citizens of our state, the voters of our state, can rest absolutely assured that Amendment 2 not only protects marriage, it also protects benefits and existing
relationships. Your group interprets that differently.
Well, and we have to look at history, you know. We have to look at Michigan, where the day after a similarly worded amendment was passed, this same group went in and sued the Michigan Higher Education Authority to nullify domestic partner benefits. The only reason people haven't been hurt in other states is because people have had to spend fortunes to keep recreating health insurance benefit wordings to prevent them from being nullified. You know, in Florida, we have, as of the 2000 census, over 400,000 people in domestic partner relationships. 87% of those are heterosexual couples. This could put 200,000 more Floridians on the rolls of the uninsured. You know, this group, on the one hand, they say, be afraid of judges. Judges are bad. They're going to do things. They're going to force things on you. On the other hand, they say, oh, no, the judges said this is just about one thing. So, you know, you can't play both sides of it. They want you to trust them to run our state. We believe that adults in Florida should be able to decide for themselves with their family and with their clergy their living arrangements.
We'll have to leave it at that, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in. Horatio Mihat of Orlando's Liberty Council and Michael Kinney of Florida Red and Blue. Thank you both for coming. Now here's a summary. If you want to strengthen Florida's existing ban on gay marriage, vote yes on Amendment 2. If you believe existing law is enough or that a further ban might harm domestic partnerships, vote no. For more on Amendment 2, just visit WMFE.org/thisweek.